You can be broken and still be chosen. Let that settle in your spirit for a moment, because so many of us have been taught that strength has to look like perfection, that to be powerful, you have to be polished. But the truth is, some of the strongest women I know are the ones who had to rise from the ashes of their own heartbreak, who had to build a new version of themselves with nothing but broken pieces and sheer grit. We don't like brokenness. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It exposes our fears, our doubts, the things we've tried to hide even from ourselves. But God doesn't shy away from broken things. He steps into them. He breathes on them. He builds with them. The world might look at your cracks and call it damage, but heaven sees design. And just because something has been broken doesn't mean it's disqualified. If anything, it means you've got space for something new to be poured in. I know what it feels like to believe that you have to hide your pain to be respected, that you've got to wear strength like a mask, smile through the H, keep your posture straight while your spirit is collapsing. But strength isn't pretending. Strength is being able to admit, I don't have it all together, but I'm still here. I'm still believing. I'm still moving. That's the kind of strength that makes hell nervous. See, when a woman walks through fire and doesn't come out smelling like smoke, when she's been lied to, abandoned, used, overlooked, and yet she still shows up with grace, still shows up with purpose. That's not weakness. That's a miracle. And too many women are waiting until they're whole to believe they're worthy, waiting until the pain fades to believe they're powerful. But wholeness doesn't always mean the pain is gone. Sometimes it means the pain no longer controls you. It means you've chosen to rise anyway. Some of the most profound power you'll ever carry comes from the place where you were once wounded. That betrayal, it taught you boundaries. That heartbreak, it taught you how to listen to your spirit. That disappointment, it taught you how to trust God over results. There's wisdom in the wounds, beauty in the ashes. And if you're willing to stop running from your past and start owning it, you'll find strength you didn't even know you had. I know people have judged you for what you went through. I know some tried to define you by the chapters they walked in on, forgetting that your story didn't end there. But hear me when I say this, you are not your trauma. You are not your lowest moment. You are not the thing that happened to you. You are the woman who survived it. You are the woman who woke up in the middle of her mess and still dared to dream, still dared to hope, still dared to love again. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but your value was never based on your condition. You were chosen before the foundation of the world, not when you were perfect, not when you had it all figured out. But when you were still unsure, when you were still hiding, when you were still trying to pick up the pieces, that's when God looked at you and said, I can use her, not in spite of the cracks, but because of them. So stop waiting until you're fixed to believe you're enough. Stop waiting until you're no longer crying to believe you're strong. Healing is not a straight line, and strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is soft. Sometimes it's simply deciding to show up. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when the weight of yesterday is still trying to hold you down. Sometimes it's saying, this is hard, but I'm not quitting. And if you've ever felt like the broken pieces of your life disqualify you from being chosen, let me remind you of something. Some of the most beautiful things are made out of brokenness. Stained glass windows, mosaic art, the kind of beauty that requires fracture before it can be formed. That's what you are. You are art in motion, glory stitched together by grace. So the next time your past tries to shame you, the next time your wounds try to silence you, I dare you to remember this. You can be broken and still be chosen. You're not meant to shrink to make others comfortable. And yet, so many of us have been conditioned to believe that our power is too much, our confidence is arrogance, our voice is disruptive. We learned early on how to take up just enough space to survive, but not so much that we'd be seen as intimidating. We've tiptoed around the room, softened our truths, silenced our dreams, all in an effort to be accepted. But hear me clearly, acceptance that requires your shrinking is not acceptance at all. That's control in disguise. There's nothing wrong with your light. There's nothing wrong with the way you think, the way you lead, the way you dream. There's nothing wrong with being bold, with walking in a room and knowing you belong there, with having something to say and saying it. You don't need to apologize for being called. You don't need to apologize for being chosen. And you surely don't need to apologize for being powerful. I know what it's like to start dimming who you are. Not because you don't believe in yourself, but because others didn't know how to handle you. You start shrinking a little in your relationships so he doesn't feel small. You start silencing your ambition so your friends don't think you're doing too much. You play down your brilliance because you don't want to seem like you're bragging. And before you know it, you're looking in the mirror wondering what happened to the woman who once believed she was destined for more. Let me tell you something. Your presence is not a problem. It's a calling. Your strength is not an accident. It's necessary. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to just go along to get along. You weren't made to make everyone else feel secure while you stay stuck in fear. You were made to lead, to shift atmospheres, to break generational cycles. And you can't do any of that if you keep shrinking yourself just to keep the peace. I need you to understand something deep in your spiriting. You have permission to be all of you. You have permission to be the loudest laugh in the room. You have permission to speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. You have permission to be soft and strong at the same time. You don't owe anyone a muted version of yourself to make them feel okay with their own insecurities. Sometimes when people can't handle your shine, they'll try to convince you it's too bright. But it's not your job to dim it. It's their job to adjust. You don't belong in spaces that require you to be less so they can feel like more. You belong in rooms where your light is honored, where your ideas are valued, where your spirit can breathe freely. And if you haven't found that room yet, baby, build one. Make space for yourself. Make space for women like you who've been told they're too much, when really they were just enough for the assignment on their life. Your power doesn't take away from anyone else's. It's not either you shine or they do. We can shine together, but it starts with one of us deciding we're no longer shrinking. We're no longer apologizing. We're no longer trading authenticity for approval. That ends today. Let them call you intimidating. Let them call you too opinionated, too ambitious, too confident. They called Esther too bold. They called Mary too young. They called Deborah too radical, but they were chosen, and so are you. You don't have to become smaller to be valuable. You don't have to be less to be loved. The right people will see your strength and celebrate it, not compete with it. If you're waiting for everyone to be okay with your fullness, you'll be waiting forever. You don't owe anyone comfort at the cast of your purpose. So stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop waiting for the world to validate what God already confirmed. You were born to take up space. Walk in that. You're not meant to shrink to make others comfortable. You're meant to rise and give them permission to do the same. Silence is not weakness. It's strategy. See, we live in a world that tries to convince us that if we're not loud, we're losing. That if we don't clap back, we're being walked over. That if we don't always have something to say, we must not know who we are. But the truth is, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all. Not because you're afraid, not because you're defeated, but because you've learned the value of your peace. There's power in restraint. There's power in not giving everything and everyone access to your voice, because your voice is sacred. Your words carry weight. And when you speak, You shift things. So no, you don't have to explain yourself every time you're misunderstood. You don't have to fight battles God never assigned to you. You don't have to prove your strength to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes silence is not surrender. It's protection. I used to think staying silent meant I was letting people win. That by not defending myself, I was giving them permission to walk over me. But I learned something powerful. Some people want a reaction. They thrive on your energy, your response, your attention. And when you stop giving them that, when you stop showing up to the fights, they keep inviting you to. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's you recognizing that not every battle is yours to fight. Some things are beneath the dignity of your calling. There are seasons when God will tell you to speak, and there are seasons when he'll tell you to stay silent, not because he's punishing you, but because he's preparing you. And when you're still, when you don't rush to defend, when you let him be your vindicator, you'll see victories that words could never produce. You'll see doors open that silence unlock. You'll see peace guard your heart in ways clapping back never could. Let's be honest. Sometimes we speak out of our wound instead of our wisdom. Sometimes we say things in the heat of moment that betray the strength we've been building. But silence gives you space. It gives you time to heal before you react. It gives you time to think before you speak. And when you speak from a place of clarity, your words carry authority. That's the kind of woman I want to be. Not just loud, but wise, not just heard, but anointed. You're not obligated to respond to every opinion. You're not required to explain your path to people who've never walked in your shoes. And you're certainly not called to lower your voice just to be accepted. Silence doesn't mean you're hiding. Sometimes it means you're standing still long enough for God to move. Sometimes it means you're choosing peace over pride. Sometimes it means you're letting your fruit speak louder than your frustration. You ever been in a situation where someone tried to bait you, tried to stir up your old self? The one that didn't take anything from anybody. The one that knew how to cut someone down with one sentence. Oh, I know her. But I also know she's tired. She's tired of fighting for people who'll never give her peace. She's tired of spending energy in places that only drain her. And now she's learning that real strength is walking away. Real strength is letting God handle what your ego used to run to fix. Silence is not about weakness. It's about alignment. It's about knowing who you are and whose you are. When you know your value, you don't have to scream it. When you're confident in your assignment, you don't have to announce it to everyone. You can let your life speak. Your actions testify. You can let your peace confuse every enemy who expected a war. I'm not saying never speak. I'm saying know when to. Know when your voice is needed and when your silence is a seed. Know when to roar and when to rest. Because both are powerful, both require strength, and both have their place in your journey. You're not any less strong because you chose to be silent. You're not any less brave because you chose not to engage. Sometimes it's the strategy that heaven uses to bring about a victory that your voice could have delayed. So if you're in a season where your silence is being misinterpreted, let it be. You don't owe anyone noise to prove your strength. Keep your peace. Guard your spirit. Stay aligned, because silence is not weakness. It's strategy. Healing is your responsibility, not their apology. That's a hard truth to hold, especially when the pain is still fresh, when the wound is still bleeding, and all you want is for the person who caused it to acknowledge it, to feel it, to fix it. But the problem with waiting for an apology is that it puts your healing in someone else's hands, and that is too sacred, too personal, too vital to your purpose to leave it up to someone who may never say, I'm sorry. You never get the apology you deserve. They may never admit what they did, never fully understand how deeply it cut, how long it lingered. And if you keep waiting for that apology before you give yourself permission to move forward, you're going to stay stuck in a story that God already gave you permission to walk out of. Your healing is not about them. It's about you. It's about what you need to reclaim. It's about the pieces your heart hurt you need to gather. It's about the life you still deserve to live. Even with a scar, I know we want closure. We want validation. We want justice. But sometimes peace is the only closure you're going to get. And that has to be enough. That has to be what you fight for. Because if you keep waiting for them to feel bad enough to say the right words, to finally see what they did, you're giving them a kind of power over your joy that they were never meant to have. You're the one who felt the weight of it. You're the one who cried in silence. You're the one who had to learn how to stand back up again. And because of that, you're the one who gets to decide when it no longer gets to control you. Not them, you. You get to say, I release this. You get to say, this pain doesn't define me. You get to say, I deserve more. And I'm walking in it with or without your apology. There's something holy about that kind of decision. It's not weakness. It's not pretending it didn't happen. It's not letting them off the hook. It's just refusing to stay on it with them. It's deciding to choose freedom over bitterness, because bitterness will rot your soul. Bitterness will poison everything good God tries to pour into your life. But healing opens you up. Healing clears the air around your spirit. Healing says, I'm still here, and I'm not letting what broke me keep me bound. Don't misunderstand me. What they did was wrong. You didn't deserve it. You didn't ask for it. You didn't overact. And you're not crazy for feeling how you felt. But your healing is not about erasing the memory. It's about detaching the pain from your identity. It's about no longer being controlled by the moment you were hurt. You can remember what happened and still refuse to live there. You can acknowledge the weight of it and still refuse to carry it into your future. Some of you have been carrying pain for years, still hoping one day they'll come back and make it right. But what if they don't? What if they've moved on, healed from what they did, and you're still standing in the ruins, waiting for justice to rebuild what they broke? You've waited long enough. It's time to pick up your own bricks and start building. It's time to forgive, not because they asked for it, but because you need the space in your soul. It's time to love yourself enough to let it go. That doesn't mean reconciliation. That doesn't mean forgetting. That doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing to be free, choosing to stop rehearsing the moment, choosing to stop giving them emotional rent in a space they no longer live in. They left, but the pain stayed. Now it's time for the pain to leave too. Your healing is holy. It is sacred work. It is yours to tend to, and you don't have to wait for someone else to get it before you go get it. Go get your joy. Go get your peace. Go get your wholeness. And if they never say a word, let your freedom be louder than their silence. Healing is your responsibility, not their apology.